My name is Eve Sibley, and I'm from the States, and I came over here to help Jaaga create itself into a living building, and we're doing that with a rooftop garden and a vertical garden, and the vertical garden is mostly ornamental, like just for aesthetics, but then also one part of it will be an aquaponics vertical garden, which has the synthesis of fish and plants growing together. So a vertical garden is basically when you're growing plants on a vertical structure. Usually plants are grown on a horizontal surface, but when you build a structure that plants can grow on top of each other on a wall, it's a vertical garden. Gray water recycling could be in a second stage of the design. For now, we're working on harvesting the rainwater that comes on the roof and using that and cycling that through our irrigation system. Yeah, for artistic expression, we have this large area. It's like 35 square meters or something that's going to be our vertical garden of ornamentals. And my background is in abstract painting, so we're basically making a design that's kind of like an abstract painting, but instead of using paints as colors, we're using plants. And yeah, we'll be choosing our plants according to the color and according to their shape and how much they're going to stick out. So there's lots of different ways to do a vertical garden. One of the way that we're going to do our ornamental vertical garden is following the style of a man called Patrick LeBlanc, he coined the whole idea of doing vertical gardens. We're going to be using different layers of material. Two of the layers will be coconut core, which basically are like a layer of stuff from a coconut that's about this thick that has a lot of porous area for the plants to grow through, and then a layer of felt that retains water really well. So the plants will go through the layers of core, and those will hold the roots in, and then they'll seek the felt in the back that holds the water, where we cycle our hydroponic solution through. We're actually, in the whole Jaaga Living Building project, we're going to have 3 types of gardens. On the rooftop, we're going to have raised beds where we actually have like this much soil, mostly compost, that we're going to be growing in. And then on the vertical section on the facade, the ornamental area is going to be these layers of felt, and the plants go into that, and it holds them together. And instead of using soil, we're cycling nutrients through water that goes down through this and is pumped up and recycled through with an irrigation system. And then the third method is the aquaponics system that we'll be doing on one area of the facade. And that's where we're going to have a fish tank at the bottom that holds fish, and the fish water will be cycled through these barrels that hold plants up and down. Well, we were given a sizable grant that it's not huge, but we're working with it. And I think, do you want to know the total grant? So in the vertical garden section, it's all ornamental plants. We have kind of a tricky situation because the sun, we're growing on a western-facing facade, so the sun doesn't actually hit this side of the building until about 1:30 p.m., and then it's really harsh sun. So we need plants that can take really harsh sun, but that only need less than 6 hours of light. Luckily, we found this amazing local gardener who's been doing it for 30 years and knows every single plant, who's going to be going around to nurseries with us to kind of, when we find plants that fit our specifics for aesthetics, he can tell us whether or not they'll thrive in the wall. We have a lot of wind that goes straight this direction and hits the wall, so we need pretty hardy plants that can deal with it. Well, the maintenance is, for one, we know that we're going to have a pump that has to cycle water because we're growing the vertical ornamentals. That's going to be hydroponically, so it needs to be fed a few times a day. So we're going to have a pump that's on a timer that sends a hydroponic solution through the wall a few times a day. The solution needs to be checked every once in a while to make sure that it's the right degree, and sometimes the water will need to be capped off. And then when it comes to the plants, we're going to try to choose plants that don't grow too quickly. so they won't take over like weeds, so there won't be too much when it comes to like trimming hedges or anything like that. We're going to pick plants that will pretty much stay the same for a couple years. Well, the vertical garden, the ornamental side is going to contribute to the building in the way that it's a natural wall that provides insulation from the street and pretty much purifies all the toxins that come straight into the building from the street. And then the roof bed, we're making our own compost with worms. So we have a worm bin that we set up with Allison, who is an artist I'm working with, who's also a professor at Shristi, a local design school, and her 2 students. And we designed a worm bin, so all of our excess produce that we eat here goes in to feed the worms, and then the worms create more compost that goes into the soil bed. And as well, the worms multiply every couple of months, and we'll be feeding the excess worms to the fish. And then the fish feed the plants in the aquaponic system, and then the excess of those goes, or those plants go to feed us. So it has a nice like flow with everything cycling. Yeah. I run a website called worldfoodgarden.org that I've been working on for a couple of years, and I met Freeman through a friend of mine online, and pretty much for a year now remotely he's been helping me out on some technical programming stuff on my website, and we've been in touch that way. And then he knew I was traveling around working on gardens for the last year and invited me to come to Jaaga to build a garden here while we continue to develop some stuff for my website. So it's a perfect match. There is a vertical garden at a hotel here. It's not going to be nearly as expressive as ours because it's pretty much just one plant that they're using. It's very nice looking. Yeah, this will be, well, when you see this building from the street, it's going to be alive. So you'll be like, what is that living building? And that will pretty much sum it up.